A new week, a new Monday. Happy Monday, let's hope so, as we continue to sail through the clear blue sky here. A sunny sky, as I like to say here. Welcome back, Artist Journal, March 10th, 2025, broadcasting from the inner half of the nervous system. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. A beautiful day here in Berlin, Germany. Continuing to improvise here, as you see here with the curation as well, starting the newspaper of the imagination. There is a freedom here. You know, I even wonder to myself, and at the risk of sounding, I wonder to myself, is this a new form that's been created here? And the reason I say that, from a media perspective, it's a question I just ask myself, because you know why? You know what? Put it this way. Where you're not going to get Kayla Mattes, which is whose work we're looking at here, in a sense you can't, I'm thinking to myself as an editor, why isn't this on the front page of Art News? And then you go, oh, because, well, Kayla Mattes is kind of, I suppose you'd call her emerging. But these images are hardly, emerging, so to speak, right? In a sense, was Picasso at age 16 an emerging artist? I guess technically, from a art business point of view. But in a sense, these are fully formed, fully developed, sophisticated, mature, I would argue, for all of the humor, the new humor, for all of the, humor, these are fully formed. There's nothing emerging about this, I would argue, other than what the business of art has to say about it. And so again, I'm just kind of left like, I guess the only way this is going to really get on the front page of a traditional art publication would, I suppose, be if a reviewer from, say, the New York Times goes to a show, sees Kayla Mattes, and puts it on the front page of the art section. I guess that could happen, right? But, is that ever going to happen? I guess we'll find out. You know what? I'll put a prediction out at some point. Let's hope so. Let's hope the New York Times, but if they do one day put it on the front page of at least their art section, just remember you saw it here first. So I'm kind of back to, where does, and there are publications, Contemporary Art Daily. I haven't been to it forever, like literally years, but there are blogs, I suppose. So maybe there are all sorts of places, actually, where you can find the new art, right? But again, I look to myself, put it this way, I feel like, finally, a work like this, the energy, and we'll kind of discuss it very quickly here, because these things can be endlessly discussed, and I can kind of talk endlessly here. I can't even remember what I was going to say. Let's go. Okay, so Spider-Man transformation. We have the meme. So Spider-Man exported, you might say, into a meme with a pretty hilarious, and it kind of brings up the whole politics question, the risk of being didactic, and why. And let me explain why I think this is not didactic. And what I mean by that is hit you over the head, lecturing to people and saying, isn't this terrible? I would argue. Because it's quite general. I mean, in a sense, you could say this is the expression of someone who feels, and I suspect, Kayla Mattes does feel anxiety. We've seen very liberal politics. Okay, this is in a U.S. context. So this person is probably speaking locally. But what's cool about it is it's not like President Trump is XYZ. It's the political situation in my country does not affect my mental health. This could apply to pretty much anyone, anywhere, in any country. And in that respect, it becomes less about a political statement and more about a human condition statement, right? Who can't, in a sense, relate to this at one point or other in their lives where they just feel almost traumatized by what is happening politically in their country, right? It's happened to all of us, one could argue. So I'd argue so it becomes, in a sense, a political statement, or even, you might even say, a commentary on politics itself and the anxiety, let's say, the individual might have and the powerlessness towards larger political forces at work in the world. And so as we see the kind of hilarious, memeified, the political situation in my country does not affect my mental health. What's interesting about Kayla Mattes is I don't recognize most, if not all of the memes, but I'm not a meme expert. If anybody has seen this meme who's watching this, I'm super curious if you have seen this before. If she is just selecting, or is she actually kind of making her own memes? Which would be incredible, because this is an awesome meme. You have all of the energy of Spider-Man. It looks like a John Romita Spider-Man or something, maybe even later. Actually, I don't know if John Romita would have done this kind of... He probably would have. He was quite dynamic. He was the artist who came, of course, after Steve Ditko about issue 40. And a master... Came out of Romance Comics, John Romita, and took over till about issue 100. And then kind of was basically the art director at Marvel, if I'm not mistaken. Incredible artist. Incredible artist. Now, final point on this. So this is part of Kayla Mattes' show. I believe it's in LA. Interesting how it's presented. It's framed. So this is a textile work. Again, this is just like a close-up of an Instagram shot, and we'll see closer. But you see here the transformation that also occurs in this tracing of sorts. This is tracing. But because the medium is so different, and because it's not really using a stylus, you don't really think of it as tracing, but what is it? I mean, it's at least a copying, but the medium is so different from the original, the meme, the JPEG, let's call it, that it just feels like, it doesn't feel like tracing, interestingly. So Charlie James is the gallery. To their credit, heads up, tonight's a good night to catch Mimesis, good title, is the gallery will be open 6 to 9 in conjunction with Christopher Rao's new solo opening at CJ, which is probably Charlie James Gallery. So let's take a quick look here. So here's actually a bit more close up of the meme here. So as you see, just kind of beautiful. Again, the transformation that is occurring here, traveling through the mediums, is another way of expressing this. And so it's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's a powerful medium for textiles, and textiles have been a big deal, but I've always been a little, put it this way, I'm not always excited if I see textiles at the gallery or museum, but maybe because this is being done with such excitement for the image that is being portrayed. Put it this way, there's a lot of energy in Kayla Mattes' work. We see it here too, say in the Britney. We actually see it in all of her work. And it's quite interesting. You see it in the color. You see it in the composition. You see it in the humor, actually. Hand-woven cotton, wool, hand-dyed, faux fur. I'm trying to make it bigger. There's Kayla Mattes. Existing in this economy. So it's kind of interesting. So as far as I assume these are found memes and that she's not making them herself, but it's an interesting question, actually. This is the hottest summer of my life. This is the coolest summer of the rest of your life. So yeah, and look at that flag. So just an incredibly exciting talent, and almost as if like dithering is being captured here. And look at the empty battery, right? So almost again, we're back to the new humor, right? We're back to the art of the present, the contents, an art of a visionary present, as J.G. Ballard would put it. The vocabulary of the visual vocabulary of the present. Here we see a web menu. But, again, with satire, U.S., homelessness, en Espanol, so, yes, it's probably a real, tags, actually. Let's see if we have any more here. And, and then you just see the power of texture, really, and of transforming mediums. And you actually see the power of, I guess this is weaving, hand-woven cotton. So, as you see here, to which generation do you belong? Millennials, 1981 to 1996. I guess I'm Gen X then. I'm 1979. Gen Z, none of the above. So there's a good the selection of humor, everything about this, just an exciting artist here as I try and keep moving. Here's just actually a little window finally into this very just, there is an energy, let's put it this way, there's an energy to her work, which is why I'm kind of back to, you know, put it this way, if I'm running a regular newspaper, I still want to do something with this, and I still want to be like, extra, read all about it. Have you seen this? So it's kind of fun to watch because to me it's going to be obvious that she's going to be it's obvious that she's going to be huge, is like in my mind, but I could be completely wrong. I mean, I've probably been talking about a lot of artists that are on this show that way, and I mean it's kind of a slow grind, but the energy is off the charts here. But anyway, there's the cat. I love it. So just awesome. Other textile work, interestingly, which is kind of in a similar spirit. This is a different artist. Who is this? Let's just look here. This is Hannah Epstein, posted by It's Not Gallery. Male Textile Artist Starter Pack. And here it is, 100% acrylic, museum curator. We'd like to offer a major exhibition, Mom's Knitting Needles, the bad boy of textiles. So more kind of, I guess, satirical work, we would say, 985 likes. But again, you see the power of the transformation that occurs, the alchemical transformation of traveling through the mediums, the power of these textile mediums. Weirdly to me, you know, I've been hearing for 10 years that textiles are a huge thing. I've never been interested, but now it's like maybe it was a content issue for me. It always just seemed like a little boring. Here's another artist, Megan Dominescu, and the last artist was Hannah Epstein. So we have 3 different artists here. And this is a pretty fun one too, If Being Invisible Was Illegal. And you see how beautiful this work is here. Look at the color, actually. It almost looks like a Scamera AI, like negative palette, move. Like the color is stunning, actually. And here you see, so a bit of I guess, humor. If being invisible was illegal, and then you see where you can't see the person in the jail cell, I guess is the joke. Not even sure I get the joke. I don't need to, though. It's the purple, I'm looking at the purple jail bars here. Beautiful, and look at the amount of love this is getting. 1,285 likes, 985 likes. So the people are voting. Look at the 1,663. Let's look at the one that we're looking at there on Kayla Mattes' page. Is this her page? No, it's the Charlie James Gallery page. So let's actually go back very quickly. Here, how many does this one? 589 likes, but it's only one day ago. So again, this work here really seemed to capture the energy of this artist, and partly thanks to, what might be John Romita, Spider-Man, but that selection of that, and again, talking politics without being didactic. So here, a very subtle move by keeping it general, by not being specific about it. So, and not alienating half her crowd, half her audience, and not lecturing to people. Some people like to do that. People make art for different reasons. But I'm always kind of relieved when when it comes to politics and art, again, I'm kind of back to the real politics, as Percy Shelley, I would argue, was saying. It's more in the beauty and advancing, the aesthetic research, as it was being described last episode in a comment. Pushing forward the notions of beauty, the real, as Percy Shelley put it, the real legislators of, as he put it, mankind, of humankind. So all very interesting. So to get us started here on a Monday, found a big version of this. We're kind of back to the new humor too. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I would argue very quickly in works like this as well, by Machine. Here was just kind of a nice big version. J.D. Vance. Again, we're back to memes. Interestingly, we're seeing, this is like internet artists, in my opinion, all physical here, by the way, interestingly. And I'm kind of back to is Machine an emerging artist now too? And these people are completely I just think it's interesting how the industry of art, how slow it is to be able to adopt a new talent these days and go and just make a star out of someone. Why isn't Machine a star already? Maybe the art, blah, blah. Why isn't Kayla Mattes a star already? These are just, this is a journal out here. Sometimes I call it the newspaper of the imagination, but it's pretty much a journal. And these are the questions I ask myself. Like, why aren't these people stars already? And I guess maybe I should be an art consultant because their works are probably pretty reasonably priced, if I'm right about all of this. Let us bring up the comments here as we move through the show. Aesthetic research, big. I think we heard back from that commenter. So that was an awesome comment there last episode. Renki, awesome. Thank you. Great to hear from you, Renki, the wonderful artist who I probably showed more than any other artist. I think we have at least one more by Renki. And actually, I remember that work by Renki. That was a spectacular work by Renki last episode. If you didn't see it, the link is right there. Jada, nice show. Thank you, Jada. Great to hear from you. Case Monsters Productions. I really enjoyed the showcase at the end. It's kind of funny. I think there's quite a few views on this one. 468, got a few new subscribers. I don't know what it is that makes the algorithm, like aesthetic research. Is it the SEO? I don't know. But it's funny how, I suspect Case Monsters Production is probably a new viewer. I really enjoyed the showcase. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear. And and it's kind of gotten to that point where there's so much commentary here that the art. So I'm going to try and avoid that today. Thank you, and awesome to have you. Hash, many thanks. You're welcome, Hash. Kyle Flemmer, 100% on board with the idea of including an irrational element and how difficult that is sometimes. So Kyle agreeing with Absurd Deity and myself on the difficulty of being irrational. It's like a muscle you got to train. Definitely pick that up from you, Adrian. Well, I'm thrilled to hear that. I really am. It's something that it's a muscle you got to work. And so it's quite interesting, or a habit, however you want to, it's kind of like the poetic muscle, one could argue. A poetic muscle. Let's call it that. I think we can call it that. A poetic muscle. Glad to hear Absurdity is wrestling with that idea too. Yes, wonderful. There's nothing like consensus on these invisible notions. These are ideas. There's nothing we can point to as evidence, real, visual things. But all of this is an invisible discussion about invisible things. Quite interestingly. Musty. God, I was at first I thought you were trolling me here, Musty. God, I wish I could make art full time. Between my videos, real life, and work, there's barely enough time. Thankfully, my videos take up most of it, and I can at least convince myself that they're a form of art too. If I didn't create something, I'd go mad. Though some say I already have. Now, I thought you were talking about me and kind of making fun of me, but I think that's actually, I later was like, I think this is genuine. I've always limited myself to drawing on paper, but exploring different art styles has helped me work faster. Especially techniques like collages and custom tools, both heavily inspired by this channel. This is all wonderful. Probably the greatest source of delight of this audience for me is that it's mostly artists and collectors. I'd say it's mostly artists. Which is quite interesting, doing an artist journal. Maybe it stands to reason, but I mean, it really is, because, I turned off the ads the last few shows. I'm not guaranteeing I'll do that forever, but let's see. Okay, the best part is that they will still allow me to start on paper, staying true to my own self-imposed limitations, which are very important. Almost like limitations are great. It's almost like they create their own poetry. Even so, I doubt I'll ever reach a production rate that truly satisfies me. You never know until you know. I made 3 to 4 works this morning. I woke up at 5 a.m., but it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, where there was times where I'd go weeks and I wouldn't have a work, right? But hopefully one day I do, and I'll continue to do everything I can to get there. Yeah, I would say just you will surprise yourself. I think all artists know this, too. People who have spent enough time, made enough works, you're going to know, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Or, oh, you're going to surprise yourself. Wonderful video as always. Thank you. Best regards. Musty Man. Great to hear from you. And just like this show, I don't know what's going to happen. I have the preparation are the tabs, so awesome. Cider, Pocobelli, you're the goat. Awesome. I love Cider's good vibes. Big shout out to Cider. I believe out of Brazil. very intelligent individual who is studying, if I remember right, industrial engineering, and a wonderful artist. Kujib. Our wonderful Kujib has dribble waffle. Sorry about that, Poco. So I was trying to send Waffles one of my works on Ordinal since he was so generous recently. I gave up X for Lent this year, but we'll return on April Fool's Day, or shortly thereafter. So we got about 3 weeks. You can message me on Rodeo, though. I didn't realize they had messaging. I usually check that account once or twice a week. Really good thoughts as always. Thank you for delineating tricky obstacles like politics with such grace and maturity. Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. It's always awesome to hear from Waffles. If you're wondering, if you're new to the show and just discovered the channel, go to episode 400. We discuss Waffles' Hasdrubal Waffle in depth on that show. Great to hear from you, my friend. Okay, also, comments last show. Evelyn O, as I was saying, Jerry Saltz's book, just kidding, hilarious. Over 400 episodes. You should get public funding for this massive work of art and culture. Keep it going, please. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. Like, I think it would, in a sense, I agree with you. I would argue I am doing a service for the culture. But weirdly, I'm kind of back to the edifice, the scaffolding of the art world. Weirdly, there's no kind of, maybe I could ask the Tezos Foundation, maybe I could ask some government, but weirdly, I would say there's no obvious scaffolding, so to speak, for, I'm kind of back to Kayla Mattes and Machine, right? Like, if you're the New York Times and you love the work, where do you put it? I guess you send let's say I'm an editor at the New York Times. I guess I would send a reviewer. I'd say, like, get me a story on this work. I'll put it on the front page of the arts section. I don't care if it's in LA and not New York. Just get me that. Get me that work so I can put that Spider-Man on our arts homepage. Anyways, let's continue here. Thank you for the comment. Awesome to hear from you. And thanks for being such a great sport, Evelyn. I love good sports. Gogolitis. I became at 38:45. So Gogolitis was talking about how developing all these incredible tools with AI, front end, back end, PHP, SQL, whole content management system. I became hooked on developing with AI in just a few hours, and it is that fast. In 2 days, I managed to create a functional front end, a back office for myself, and a space where users can edit their data, and everything works perfectly. You can even provide Grok. So this is not done with Grok, interestingly, with a design and attached image to give it styling instructions. It truly feels limitless. I need to cancel all my other AI subscriptions because I have 2. And it's like $60 Canadian here, and it's adding up. So maybe I'll just use Grok for a while. Thanks, Gogo. Super interesting and inspiring. Okay, so we have Sasuke. I'm going to have to try and remember this. Sasuke. That is how you pronounce this person's name. All good. Most people don't know how to pronounce my name, but to help you out, it's like Sasuke from Naruto the anime, but instead of K at the end, it's Ku. Sasuku. It's like the sound a pigeon makes. Sasuku. Okay, I will do my best to remember that. Thank you for writing and letting me know. Rad artworks there. Martin Bruce, great to watch during lunchtime. Greeting Adrian. Greetings, my friend, over, I believe, in Portugal. The wonderful artist. And I see Martin Bruce has changed his name from what I sometimes called Martin Brook to now the full Martin Bruce. Probably a good idea. It's well worth it. Lena, my Friday's dessert. Awesome. Great to hear from you, Lena. Thanks for all the support. Andre Balestrero, who I believe wrote the aesthetic research comments. Thanks for answering my provocation. To make my point clear, I totally agree with you. Dealing with form is main artist's business. The etymological meaning of aesthetics refers to something that is perceived by the senses. That is quite interesting. So the etymology is I guess you'd call it the origin. Now, what is it? Freud used a word, a weird word that meant cause that I think is similar. Anyways, no, I'm looking at etymology, actually. So I'm looking at the etymology of etymology, but we're talking about the etymology of aesthetics here. So that's quite interesting. I didn't know. So aesthetics refers to something that is perceived by the senses. By the way, the big majority of artists you present in your journal seem somehow engaged with reality, and generalizing is never easy or useful to do. Or is never easy or useful too. But also I consider that making art is a multi-layered business, and the role of artists in society today, starting from Impressionism perhaps, is very different than other periods in history. Considering crypto art as a whole, I have this feeling that statistically there is more of a self-referential research than in, let's say, traditional contemporary art in general. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I think that's fair. And I don't even consider, like, some people will be like, oh, you do crypto art, and I go, no. Like when I'm describing my show to people, because crypto art, as we've discussed with Xerox and others, crypto art basically means, art that deals with crypto as basically commentary on crypto. So it might be talking about crypto culture, cryptocurrency culture, right? So that's generally crypto art has a certain visual vocabulary, shall we say, and reference points, cultural reference points. So I do agree that crypto art is fairly self-referential. Considering crypto art as a whole, I have this feeling that statistically there's more of a self-referential research. Yeah, like in a sense, you could argue, interestingly, and I say this with no judgment, like crypto art is pointing more to its own culture than to any tradition, than to, say, the tradition of the history of art, generally speaking. Sometimes it comes in, but it's, so interesting. Let's continue here. Regarding politics, I remember going to Documenta 10 or 11, probably both, and no, I'm not referring to that kind of political approach, and they are, speaking of didactic politics, right, hit you over the head politics, divisive politics, probably both, and I'm not referring to that, and I guess it's good to drum up the controversy, but yeah, I did hear about that document. Maybe it was the last one. I don't know if it was 11. I've never been to Documenta, even though I believe it happens, is it every 5 years or every 10 years? Probably every 5 years. And it happens here in Germany. I think 2 have happened while I've been here. I haven't bothered. There's another show that's kind of similar to Documenta. Anyways, let's continue. Probably both, and I'm not referring to that kind of political approach, even if I'm not necessarily against it, given I can find some kind of aesthetic value too. Nor am I referring to being partisan of the left or right of something if those categories still make any sense, if you think about it. But yeah, so I'm kind of back to, I like how Kayla Mattes there that we opened with went right to the line. You could read in to what she's saying, but it's still just generalities that could apply to anybody, whatever their political stripe, which I love. So if you think about it, the same history of perspective can be read as the testimony of a series of much stronger political positions taken by artists. The same history of perspective. So not exactly sure. It's a complex debate. Thank you. Indeed. Thank you for the time and effort you put into making it possible. Well, thank you, my friend. And thank you for the very thoughtful comments here. I thought this was hilarious. Thank you, Admirola, for the picture here. Hilarious. Aesthetic research. Maybe that title rung with Ed too. And it may have been our friend here, Andrea Balestrero, discussing aesthetic research. Love that idea. Indeed. Okay, Tino Chan. With all due respect, if I collect a one-of-one NFT and the artist also sells prints of the same piece through other channels, I'd be quite upset. Is it just me, or do you feel the same? So we've gone through this many times. And because there are new viewers here, and because it does come up every so often, in a sense, what is the relationship of a physical work to a quote-unquote one-of-one NFT or a digital art piece that's being sold on the blockchain? And as Unknown Collector here says, I'm fine with it. It's another medium. Right? Prints are clearly distinguishable from a unique NFT, so there's no confusion. And this is, not only are they distinguishable, but they are inherently different works of art. In a sense, you could say the content is similar. There may be even similar messaging. But let's say if you were to take the Kayla Mattes and you had a photo of the textile work, and then you have the textile work, I mean, which do you want to own? Right? And are they the same thing? Like, clearly not, I would argue. And I think it's the same thing. I mean, there is some ambiguity that can be said. You see someone like Machine who will make a physical work and then that gets sold as an NFT. as a digital art piece. But as I always say, what you're selling, what you're buying there is a photo of a painting, because that's what it is, right? And the painting is the painting. Now, and finally, as we were discussing in previous episodes, let's say you make a digital artwork, and then you decide you want to make physical versions. What I tell people, and I think I was talking about this Friday, just recently, where it's like the physical has to justify itself, the physical work. In my, like, that's what I would tell if I had like students or just talking to other artists, or when people are asking me, how does your physical work with your digital work? And I say the physical work has to justify itself. In other words, it has to offer something different by putting it in that medium. It has to have a kind of a raison d'être, like almost a reason for being, so to speak. So interesting. I just wanted to highlight this. So Sabato was going through some artists, some of his favorite artists for International Women's Day. And Suzanne Treister, who we've discussed here before. We've looked at some of Suzanne Treister's work, but really an important artist. What does it say here? When I first encountered this beautiful, beautiful series, feeling the same way, in 2021, I didn't know it was all made on deluxe paint. But it all makes sense now, not only some of the greatest pixel art ever made, but also as a work of post-photography. So I totally agree. These works are stunning, and they did an okay job. The fact that it was in the Tate show, Electric Dream show, was good, but I thought they could have displayed it. Even the TV was like not a perfect TV. Like it had like little issues with it. So all to say, just a really cool artist, kind of playing with, way back, I think in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, playing with video game UX, so to speak, as source material, and then starting to reappropriate, recombine, and basically interrupt it, so to speak. Really, Suzanne Treister. So that is the artist, if you're curious. The Myth, who of course I follow. If the NFTs died, I feel sorry for you. Tezos and I are more alive than ever, and totally agree. Actually, interestingly, and maybe the NFTs as a word died. In a sense, it has for me, but the art we're seeing on the blockchain is still incredibly interesting. You never know with Myth if he's trolling or anything, but anyways, cool thought there from the Myth. Zora, how earnings are made from creating coins on Zora. This is hilarious. I found it hilarious anyways. How earnings are made. So if you want to make money selling your art on Zora, earnings vary on three factors: on platform trades, off-platform. I'm lost already. Liquidity pool size, and number of liquidity providers. Earnings come in two types of rewards: a trade reward and a market reward. On Zora, creators earn. So it's just again, I'm kind of back to this is the saddest thing in the world. Zora was going mainstream, like in August, in actually July. They were starting to go mainstream, I would argue. Like I was like, ooh, this is getting really big. And then they, changed it. And then so here we are, and this is where we are now. Creators earn rewards in both ETH and their own coin. Creators earn in ETH when people buy. They earn in their own, like, who's going to remember any of this? In total, you're receiving earnings in ETH and in coins. Coin pages only, like, I'm exhausted. And so bonus, but wait, there's more. Creators automatically receive 1% of their coin supply per post. Thank you for creating coins and sharing your feedback with us. We know this is, so like tech support here, we know this is confusing and are working to make it less confusing soon. So it's quite something here. So creator earnings, Victor RK. So to earn on Zora as artists, we need to create a complete viral hit that folks will spend thousands of dollars on. So we get paid in royalties. So all are part of the 10 million units of the coin. Any advice on when to sell so we don't compromise the token or rug our audience? I'm not sure if this has been thought, if there's actually an answer. Like, it's a good question. I mean, because it seems like, as far as I understand, you get 10 million coins out of the 1 billion. And then, as they say here, like, how do we not rug our audience? Maybe it's not considered enough coins. I don't know, but it's quite something to watch. Mr. Merge, one thing is clear. We're in a different world to 2021. There is broad base of quality in the digital art space. I'm seeing so much stuff I want to own right now, so that is quite interesting. So, totally agree. It has come a long way since 2021. I didn't take it at all seriously until, I guess, February 2022 when I started. It was like Haiti Rockette, someone who's very underappreciated as an artist and who's been around forever. And so that's when I started to actually, and Rata, as I've mentioned here many times. So, but now it's like what's cool is that revolution that happened on Hen. A lot of those artists are still around. I thought this was pretty interesting. Clint Russell. My working hypothesis is that the generation that grew up with Guitar Hero and YouTube tutorials has now created thousands of guitarists who are the most technically gifted in history. But they can't create original music. Where are all the great new rock bands? I don't really have anything to say other than I wanted to share this. That's so interesting. And it rings true, doesn't it? And like rock bands, give me a good new rock band name. I can't even and maybe sometimes I feel like when I think of like rock in the general sense, I feel like it was a 20th century thing. And it was a 20th century kind of, phenomenon. And I just kind of feel like it's past. It's almost like a retro type thing now to start a band and just this whole mentality. It's a 20th century dream, I would argue. Nothing against anybody that has rock bands, but here's Dan Control using kind of a tablet that with the stylus, but it kind of looks like this is like a PC or something and not like some iPad. So interesting to see Dan Control at work. I assume that's Dan Control. Ranma Half, one of two. Rinny Fish. Fifth day, one more sketch, still no iPad. I really want to go on a picnic sometime. So almost like Sabato there, being forced to make physical art when the computer broke. Here it is, my eye laser surgery. Wow. Well, best wishes to Rinny Fish yesterday. And I feel so surreal now. The surgery was super short. Only 30 seconds, then everything became a little blurry. My eyes are still sensitive. I teared up a lot last night. I'm so excited. No more glasses. So sounding like Rinny Fish got eye laser surgery. So anyways, best of luck. Get well soon, Rinny Fish. Uxine, who of course I follow. A few more of these gargoyles I love that one on the bottom left there. So a few variations on the gargoyles by Uxine. And Marietta out of Buenos Aires for the Guardian article on plant-based meat tests led by Caroline Cotto. So Marietta with work in the Guardian. How cool is that? Very impressive. There is Marietta's work in the Guardian. Pretty awesome artist on, you can find her work on Object, which is on the Tezos blockchain. Martin Bruce, who we're just hearing from. Abstract Lands. So some interesting works here by Martin Bruce. Again, that kind of TV snow, very experimental work as we are used to, and kind of an abstract landscape. As we see our edition of one, and this went to Absurdity for 150 Tezos. It's great to see Martin Bruce. You see how strong the market is. Like if the market is excited about your work, I mean, Martin Bruce is releasing a work almost every day. Put it at auction on this one, 90 Tezos, Dracula Battle 3. So again, just these cool, what I want to call improvisations by Martin Bruce. Super interesting artist. Goes from physical to digital. Did a fabulous interview with Martin. This one went to Daggy D. This went for 90 Tezos at auction. So Dracula Battle 2. And again, similar sort of ideas here, and always kind of challenging the viewer in a way that reminds me of Nov 1914. Just always willing to challenge the viewer with, say, like what we're seeing in the background here. This very large, kind of unconventional, almost looking like a reproduction put through Adobe Illustrator or something. Who knows? Yuri J, who of course I follow, Cooking Almost Ready. I don't remember seeing this one. So here, up close, and because we did see the pot, but I don't think we've seen this one. This one looks quite a bit more detailed, and I don't remember these textures here. Anyways, more beautiful digital painting here by Yuri J. So very cool kind of kitchen work. Love this area here. And there's a kind of nice looseness and painterliness to the chaos here of Yuri J's work. Planta 12, so Nov 1914 putting out a horizontal work. So pretty edgy here as well. And putting out several works a day here. This one's still available for 35 Tezos. It's only $25 available for this nice kind of horizontal flower. Here's another work. This one's 15 Tezos by Nuv 1914. So more experimental here. Again, challenging the viewer, as we like to say here. So very interesting piece here. This was picked up by Deggy D. This is Louis. This is the artist Louis, Angsty. I thought interesting, nice pickup here from Deggy D. And again, cool kind of experimentation here. Almost looks like a landscape, some cool gradients, and then some cutout kind of aspects to it here. And this went for 10 Tezos, and I believe it's an edition of 2. Here's Sol's, also picked up by Deggy D, 25 Tezos. Mikanto, so some birds done by Sol's here. So nice one of one with a very interesting artist, Sol's, keeping it fresh here. Edition of 1, and again, going for 25 Tezos. Here's Dan Control again. One moment I'll call you. So I don't think we've seen this one, but again, Dan Control, who we started last episode with, if you remember, for those that are new. So here, taking a kind of retro but modern consumer item. The background I find super interesting because sometimes Dan will just put like a landscape, like a green grass and blue sky. This is quite subtle. It's just a gradient with a little bit of almost a light, which creates a sense of depth, and then a little bit of shadow there. Almost a little bit more graphic designery from Dan Control. Here's Mishi Asu, 00 Flower. This was also picked up by Deggy D, 11 Tezos for an edition of 1. And look at how experimental this is. So again, playing with expectations here and different kind of colors and everything. And then just in there, adding a little bit of texture. Interesting piece. Some Term of Lives by Mishi Asu. These more Deggy D. So Deggy D keeping the ship going here in the sky. The shadow of the tree spins around the tree. So a few commissions here from Deggy D. Let me get some volume. More commissions for Zozo, which is pretty thrilling. So interesting piece here. What is this? So here is 1, and there are 2 more. This is called Light, and I think it might have been a triptych, I think. So interesting piece here, kind of an interior and an exterior. And as an edition of 1, and Opposite Directions edition of 1, and ooh, I love this. Kind of reminds you of the airport one. Left Behind. Look at that escalator. This is fabulous. Opposite Directions, that going to Deggy D, so nice one. And let's see this one, External Inside. Beautiful trees here. I guess that's a ceiling. Is it grass? Is it a floor? Are those flowers? Not sure. Anyway, external inside. You almost can't tell if it's an interior or an exterior, or is it as it says here, an exterior inside? That's exactly what it looks like. Also going to Diggity. So maybe 4 commissions, if I'm not mistaken. Here's an open edition, the Myth times Coca-Cola. So continuing the branding tour by the Myth. I'm kind of back to, like, what if this was, if only this was, actual reality. Maybe I'm so deep in this that I just go, why isn't this on the New York Times? Why can't I buy my Myth Coca-Cola at the grocery store? Yeah. So anyways, awesome work here. Love the clouds on the red, the beautifully rendered red can here. 14 minted so far, 2 days to go, 3 Tezos, pretty reasonable. Mr. Montoya, the king of the scam. So I don't know if this is from, I want to say it's like from that Netflix show. I can't remember what it's called, but I have no idea what the reference is. Cool kind of Myth mouth there, smoking a cigarette. Classic Myth clouds there. A little bit of texture there. Looks like it was made with Procreate. 1 of 1 by the Myth. This is pretty cool here. Chu Ox, animation and illustration. I don't think this is on the blockchain, but it kind of should be. I think this would sell really well. Even this whole style that this artist has. I think could do really well. Let's see if we see anything. Illustrator, graphic designer, Japan, Taiwan. That is a beautiful piece. Very interesting artist. Very kind of poetic, arty looking illustration. Very nice work. Here is Jake Studios' edition of one Manji Yan, and this went for only, not sure actually. That looks like not sure what it went for. It was transferred to Y Sigma Toad. And here it is, kind of looks like the Jake Studios figure here with a few eyes, interesting light background. And cool, not sure what's going on. The brain kind of looks like clouds, not sure. Edition of one, and not sure how it's sold. Here is Canik Zapata. Some beautiful canvases here. Edition of 11. These are now 6 Tezos 89, I think, on secondary. And again, stable diffusion here. You almost see a signature hilariously there. In the AI, it's fun to leave that stuff too. And again, working with Python. Look at these patternings here. So just more wonderful work. Kind of looks a little different, this one. But I guess this is the person in the studio. The series does seem to be evolving. She's now collecting Linda Lowe and Ladelmas, who is an awesome illustrator. I wish Ladelmas made more work. People often tell him, "You are crazy. Why do you collect art on blockchain?" Then he smiles and shows his wallet. So this is gorgeous here too. So showing the work on the computer, and you see again all the different patterning here. Quite the wonderful contrast that's going on. Not everything is moving. Part of it's moving. Part of it's static. Look at that keyboard. Look at that poetic keyboard. I'm kind of back to almost what we see with Kayla Mattes, like in a sense. Like, is this tracing? Here's my kind of far out kind of question. Is this tracing with the keyboard? No, I guess it's AI, but it feels like tracing, doesn't it? I mean, you're telling it to make a keyboard, but it's not an exact keyboard, and I guess you don't have the keyboard in mind. I guess you could specify. Beautiful keyboard, isn't it? The whole thing. Very beautiful. And here's another one by Canik Zapata, edition of 11. And here we see a nice big painting in the background. And look at this, almost like some sort of abstract wallpaper. There is the collector, not even worrying about putting the bottom area. I guess that's the table. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Beautiful work here by Canik Zapata. Louis. Here's Louis again, Candy Griddle. So cool work here too from Louis. Nice kind of landscape, abstract landscape here. Looking like it's using some tiling of some kind. So interesting piece by Louis here on Tezos. That's an edition of one for 21 Tezos. Continuing on, another abstract. This is Evelyn O, who we're hiring from Higher Res version, I assume. And so here, I believe these are digital, maybe with AI. I can't remember. It's cool abstract there. And here's Mikkel Nolson, work in progress too. So a few abstracts here for you. And of course, Mikkel Nolson releasing a ton of work on Solana. If you're looking, here is Yoa Ian. A few works from February 2025. I don't think these were all released. A few were released on Rodeo, remember, but not all of them, I don't think. So I don't remember seeing this one. And here you almost see a physical version, and remember, it was playing with the book, so playing with printing. Very interesting. So AI abstracts here. And here, excuse me, Ferdo Ropeza with a cool abstract here too. Edition of 10. Nice piece, and this is full scale. So very interesting. Generative abstract piece made with code in Hydra. So very interesting. I guess that's from December, but showed up in my feed, 5 Tezos, and on Object. Here's Muji, Miro too. So cool work by Muji, I believe using Deluxe Paint here. Always has a bit more of a different palette. It is Deluxe Paint, as it says here. Edition of 1 for 150 Tezos. And here is Cap'n. Cowboy 24. This was pretty rad. This is on Rodeo and minting 67 so far. Let me just bring this up in a new tab. Beautiful work by Cap'n here with the static cowboy here, kind of pixel art cowboy about to climb the sky. Always a kind of a mystical vibe here. Beautiful landscape here too. Makes it look so easy. More work from Cap'n, Cowboy number 23. And let me make this larger here. As you see this beautiful sun. and then some of these kind of moving, I believe, animated in GIMP. And then here again is this kind of mystical cowboy here in this kind of astral landscape. Here's Noodler, Bend. So nature coming to life here, kind of less pixel arty, interestingly, at least from what I can see here from Noodler. So cool work there. Here is Mech. Water and life in the deepest of caves. So almost kind of a hearkening back to some earlier mech work here. Very popular work. I have a few of works like this in the collection. 2 or 3 colors. Maybe here it's 4. See a few flowers. Just beautiful kind of nature works. As I've always said, pixel art and nature tend to go quite well together. It's the contrast of the rectilinear and the curvilinear forms. Edition of 20. Let's continue. Here's Kyle Flemmer, Quasar Twist. And so this is going to be in the Microcosmos collection, so a bit more colorful work. You see some tiling here. And so this will probably be put, I imagine, on chain. As this work is on chain as well, this is a jar by Tornado Rodriguez from March 9th, so a new one. And one person minting it, so Dither, and I think so probably it looks like a 1 of 1. And as you see here, I think this actually might be a collaboration between Dither, because I saw Dither actually put a little sketch. So I think this is a collaboration, actually, between Tornado and Dither, if I am not mistaken. Let me just check there. Done using Aseprite. So I'm not sure, because here it says Tornado Rodriguez, but Dither minting it, and so not sure. eBoy Arts. So new work here on Pixorama. Interesting title there in the hashtag. Interesting hashtag. So here, again, that kind of 45-degree angle, kind of video game composition. Here's Hermipe pixel art with some cool work here. 3 colors, kind of it looks like a character design of some kind. And it's not translating here, but interesting kind of light gray background. Here is Françoise Gamma on Rodeo. So a cool abstract here from Françoise Gamma, pixel art abstract. Here's another one, looks like a rose. Again, 100 mints on Rodeo. Here's Element Lee and I don't think we saw this one. This is on Instagram called Bar, almost like a downloading bar or something to show you how far you've progressed. Here's the percentage. Looks like it's been curved a little bit here and interpreted. Interestingly, here's Lorna Mills' Zen form. So a kind of papier-mâché looking clown head that someone is wearing. This is, again, Lorna Mills on Object, and 3 gone so far. As we continue here, here's Mumble Boy, Make Way for the New. Love this title. And cool composition here. Again, kind of interesting color palette on this one as well. Going really nicely with that last one. I don't know if Mumbleboy is changing something with the colors, but there's something awesome. Again, collage, digital elements, going back and forth between physical and digital. Quite a large file. Edition of 2 for 12 Tezos. Here's Renki. Big shout out to Renki. Shinai Numa. Nice kind of wide angle composition. Reminds me of Cider here. So cool work from Renki, as usual. Here's another very cool work from Renki. Very subtle, almost alien-looking like work here. This one is posted on Instagram. So cool work there. Here is Nebular with a woman dancing seemingly through the beach, out of frame, edition of 10. And again, analog video glitch. Let's just make that full screen. Dancing through color and black and white. And continuing on, here is Sketch 3 by Xmortal. So Xmortal doing some experiments here with kind of sketches of landscapes and then applying some of the analog video glitch process to it. Digital drawing created in Procreate, sketched from generated source material. Video preparation performed in After Effects. So very interesting, edition of 3 and just transferred probably to previous collectors. Here's No Hygiene with some emojis. And this wild, I could have almost started with this work here with all these weirdo smiles here and then the angels. Interesting crop here too from No Hygiene and interesting writing description. That is 250 Tezos. And here is an AI work by Neg AI. It's called The Bench. And here A beautiful AI painting here of these two figures on a bench wearing pink on a blue bench and then combining. Interesting. Very color coordinated here. And then some beautiful flowers in the background. Nice AI painting. And then some paintings here. This is Bobichik Mattia, Gorillas in the Mist. And I loved how unfinished looking this is, how non finito this is. I love this composition. You know, we were discussing how hard it is to be irrational. To me, this is a perfect example of doing something very irrational. Why is this paint over top here? And it looking incredibly poetic. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So that is on Instagram. How's it doing? 1,285 likes. You know, that's pretty awesome. Here is Christine Tien Wang. I wonder if that is Christine Tien Wang. The artist's work is currently doing a lot of memes here too. And so cheers to you, Christine. Self-portrait. Christine is illiterate. 2023 oil on canvas. So interesting self-portrait there. Kamito Art Center. So out of Japan. So just some interesting text over photos or paint over photos. Always interesting work here. Not sure what's going on there. Big by big. So let's continue. Here's Dan Control, selected photo. So playing with photos here, doing some paintings of photos. And what's interesting about it is it seems quite obvious that it's a photo, and Dan Control seems to be playing off of that. As you see, pretty talented painter. This is It's Not Gallery. Where is the artist? Mauro C. Martinez. So more J.D. Vance heads that are being celebrated here. And there you see the likes and almost looking like a TikTok UX there. Here is Jennifer J. Lee with some hugely textured work here. A sweater on thick canvas, beautifully painted. And here is Kate Mary Art with a look of what looks like a work in progress here in the studio. Vibes are summery in the studio at the moment. Yeah, and the weather's been great out here in Berlin. I think it's about to stop tomorrow, but it's been fabulous out here. Also, nice kind of minimal, kind of monochromatic work here by Kate Mary Art. That's for the Hepatitis C Trust. And here is David Hales. Needs a title, please. Acrylic 2025. And just constantly grinding here for what feels like years and years and years. Like I want to say at least since 2016. How are they doing for followers here? Only 2,800 followers, but what a grind. Awesome artist. David Hales. Stefan Schwarzer with a gorgeous work here. Almost playing with different kind of mediums here. Forms of representation, as you see. Kind of got a little bit of a Rauschenberg feel, but not too much. And the colors are just awesome. Acrylic colors, oil stick, and color stick with canvas. Or oil chalk. Carly Gamitro, It's Not Gallery. This almost looks like graphite, doesn't it? Which would be pretty rad, but maybe it's graphite and a little bit of something else. Very interesting. Back to It's Not Gallery. Carly Gamitro, very talented curators. Again, you know, if I'm, like in my final seconds here, if I'm like MoMA or wherever, Whitney, in my little like fantasy land, I mean, It's Not Gallery. Put on a show for me, please. Anyways, thanks for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care.